We are just 1 week away from Election Day. Both candidates are making their final push to win over voters in key battleground states. The vice president is doing several media appearances this afternoon, including an interview with our Philadelphia station that we will bring you shortly. This evening, she will be delivering her closing arguments from the same spot Trump delivered his remarks on January 6th in Washington, D.C. in 2021. And former President Trump started today with remarks from Mar-a-Lago before heading to Pennsylvania for a pair of campaign events. The former president kicked off his remarks in Florida with attacks on Vice President Harris, along with his usual campaign topics, including immigration and the economy. He also discussed how he believes the election is unfolding so far.
It's going very well. There are some bad spots in Pennsylvania where some serious things have been caught or in the process of being caught, but the election itself is going very well. We're leading, I believe, in all 7 swing states.
Let's bring in our CBS News panel for more on all this. Libby, Cathey, and Aaron Navarro are both CBS News campaign reporters. Libby is following the Trump campaign from Atlanta, and Aaron is following the Harris campaign in Washington. Libby, the former president has pushed on with his closing arguments. What are the key takeaways from today's Mar-a-Lago presser?
Yeah, good to be with you, Lindsay. I'd say one takeaway is these were remarks to the press, and he did not take any questions from the press. It's been a couple days now, but the former president really delivering more of the same from what we've heard, making immigration a top issue there, vowing those mass deportations, also talking about the election, seemingly priming his supporters for an election loss to prepare to challenge the election by saying he already sees business in Pennsylvania, not providing any evidence of what that is, but just teasing it at the top. Towards the end of his 54-minute remarks, we heard what we think the purpose of having this press availability was to serve as a pre-rebuttal to Vice President Kamala Harris's speech at the Ellipse tonight. He said that Harris is unfit for the presidency. His quote, he said that her campaign is one of hatred and division. He said, meanwhile, he is painting a broad coalition. He also talked about that Madison Square Garden rally, which has gotten a lot of backlash since, describing that as a love fest. Lindsay.
Let's talk about that. Trump is denying knowing comedian Tony Hinchcliffe. He says he didn't hear his disparaging remarks about Puerto Rico and other, including many other groups and voting blocs during the former president's Madison Square Garden rally this weekend. He mentioned, as you said, the event was like a love fest. His campaign says the joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or the campaign. But they also say, he added the joke without campaign approval. But if the campaign says the joke does not reflect its views, why not offer an apology?
That's a good question, Lindsay, and I think one that many are asking now. Some Republicans wanting the former president to apologize for this, but do not expect that to happen. He came out and spoke to press this morning, notably, as we said, did not offer that apology, did not speak to those jokes, did not speak to comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, but telling ABC's Rachel Scott that he doesn't know him. And we hear this from the former president a lot, just kind of pleading ignorance on something as opposed to offering an apology when a controversy stirs around it. So not expecting that from the former president, but it is notable that Sunday night his campaign did put that statement out distancing themselves from Tony Hinchcliffe pretty early on. So they knew this was going to be an issue, and they're concerned that this could hurt them with battleground voters with 1 week to go, Lindsay.
Well, Trump is traveling to an area of Pennsylvania with a large Latino population today. What should we expect to hear from him?
Yeah, so headed to Pennsylvania today, maybe going to do a little bit of damage control from that Madison Square Garden rally. I'll note that Pennsylvania is home to more than 500,000 Latinos, some 80,000 Puerto Ricans. 80,000 is the margin of votes that Joe Biden won by in 2020. So definitely need that Latino vote in Pennsylvania to win the state. Trump going there today. He has a roundtable this afternoon ahead of a rally in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And for the rest of the week, it's just going to be rally after rally. These two candidates crisscrossing the battleground states, delivering these closing messages. Trump says it will be on immigration. His campaign wants him to talk about the economy and inflation as well, but repeatedly we hear from the former president say that he thinks everything stems from immigration and the southern border, and he'll likely be talking about that today in Pennsylvania.
Okay, Libby, Cathey, thank you. Let's turn now to Aaron Navarro for more on the Harris campaign. Aaron, what should we expect to hear from Harris when she kicks off her closing arguments tonight in Washington?
Lindsay, good to be with you. We know that a contrast between her vision for the future of the country and Trump's will be a big part of the speech. You will hear her say the phrase, turn the page a lot. And that's her referencing kind of Trump's general time and decade in the political spotlight. We also know her campaign said on the call today that she will be focused on her agenda on the economy, noting what she would do to lower costs as well as abortion rights. And that's interesting, given that that is, her main two issues. But given the location of where she will be on the ellipse Trump was on January 6th, the fact that it did not preview lots of talk about democracy was interesting to me.
The vice president has been making a strong push to win over voters in key swing states. Why did she choose to host tonight's event in the nation's capital? And does her team think that the message to save democracy will move the needle for undecideds?
Yeah, campaign officials say this event, while there will be potentially 40,000 people there, lots of supporters, is geared towards undecided voters, talking about the economy, talking about the contrast of having Harris in the White House, and that's part of that visual that they want there, or Trump. And they also point out that symbolically, this is where Trump was on January 6th when his supporters, rioters, tried to overturn the results of the election. And that image itself is something they're going to be leaning into.
The Harris-Walz campaign is looking to capitalize on the backlash that former President Trump is facing following those remarks about Puerto Rico at that Madison Square Garden rally this weekend. What more do we know about how they're trying to do that?
The campaign believes that this will put their effort to court Latino voters in Pennsylvania. They've been doing events in predominantly Latino towns, such as Reading and Allentown, that it will help them put them over the edge in terms of a winning margin. They have already put out a digital ad referencing the comedian's comments. She will be doing a Spanish radio interview in Pennsylvania today. And she was just in a Puerto Rican restaurant in North Philadelphia, a storied one, Freddie and Tony's, where she unveiled her plan to help Puerto Rico in their economy and their electrical grid this past Sunday. And that was happening as the split screen in Madison Square Garden was going on.
All right, Aaron Navarro, thank you.
Take care.